Alright, hi class, this is Miss Best. This video is going to be solving quadratics with complex solutions. Alright, so a complex solution is a solution that includes an imaginary number. Oftentimes you'll see in books and literature, you'll see them show a complex solution by a plus or minus bi. Okay, A and B stand for regular numbers, integers, rational numbers, and then I stands for imaginary. Okay, the value of I is equal to the square root of -1. Now you may be thinking, why do we need to have a special letter for the square root of -1? Well, if you think about the definition of a square, the definition of a square is a number times itself. So there aren't any numbers that can multiply with themselves and make a negative number. Whether you multiply two positive numbers or two negative numbers, when you multiply it with itself, you're going to get a positive solution. So the fact that you multiplied a number with itself and got a negative number, it means it's imaginary. Okay, so the major rule with solving quadratics with complex solutions is if you have a negative under the square root, if you have a negative radicand, okay, you drop the negative symbol and take out I. Okay, so you're going to drop the negative sign and you're going to put an I on the outside. You're going to put an I on the outside of the radical. Okay, let's get into our first example. Okay, the first example I have is -98 d squared minus 2 equals 0. Alright, so the same thing works when you're solving quadratics by using square roots. You want to isolate the variable. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides. These 2's will cancel out. And now I have -98 d squared equals a positive 2. Okay, then I need to divide both sides by 98. So I'm going to divide both sides by -98. Okay, these -98's will cancel out. And now I have d squared equals 2 or -2 over 98. Okay, so -2 over 98 can be reduced. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. 2 can go into itself one time, and 2 can go into 98 49 times. So I'm going to write that now as -1 over 49. Okay, so now I have isolated my variable. Now I'm going to take the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Now I have d equals, okay, so I have a negative underneath the square root. So following the rule, okay, I'm going to drop the negative sign and take out an I. So I'm going to put my I in front, and then I'm going to write my square root. Now it's just 1 over 49. Okay, so now I can take the square root of 1 over 49. Okay, I'm going to go up here. Alright, so the square root of 1 over 49, I'm going to take the square root of 1, which would just be 1. And then the square root of 49, which would just be 7. Okay, so now my answer is d equals plus or minus I times 1 over 7. Now, I is not restricted. You treat I as if it was like a variable, like an x or y, u, v, w, okay, whatever. So I'm going to make this look a little bit simpler, okay, and I'm going to multiply these two. So now I have d equals plus or minus I times 1 is I, because anything times 1 is itself. Okay, and then 7 stays on the bottom. Alright, so this is what our final answer will look like. Okay, d equals plus or minus I over 7. Okay, So if you need to go back and look at that, pause the video or rewind the video, and I'm going to go on to the next example. Okay, the next example, 25 q squared plus 11 equals 0. All right, so I'm going to isolate. So I'm going to subtract 11 from both sides. The 11s will cancel out. Now I have 25 q squared equals negative 11. Okay, and I'm going to divide both sides by 25. These 25s will cancel out. And now I have q squared equals negative 11 over 25. Okay, now I need to take the square root. Take the square root of both sides. Alright, I see I have a negative radicand. Okay, so I'm going to drop the negative sign and I'm going to put an I on the outside. So now I have the square root of q squared, which is q. Okay, and that equals plus or minus I square root of 11 over 25. Okay, so now I can just find the square root of 11 over 25. Alright, I'm going to take this up here. Alright, so q equals plus or minus I. The square root of 11 has no perfect square that's a factor of it except for 1, so we're just going to keep it the square root of 11. And then the square root of 25 is 5, so that will go on the bottom. And this is the final answer. Alright, so if you have any questions, please bring them to class. And if you need to watch the video again, please do so. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.